Hi everyone. So today we're going to talk a little bit about school wellness. And this information really relates to you and will help you prepare for your school health index assignment. At the end, we're going to review a little bit about the proper use of an apostrophe. I also want to note that I've broken this side set into 3 separate audio recordings so that it's a little bit more chunked out for you, and you don't have to listen to it all at once. So this slide really just talks about some of the learning objectives that we're going to cover. You'll notice the third learning objective, which was originally in the slide set, was practice public speaking skills. Well, I'm certainly practicing my public speaking skills, but we're going to save your public speaking skills till the next time we're together, and we'll circle back to that for you. So you may have heard of this approach, whole school, whole community, whole child. This is very much a collaborative approach to connecting learning and health, and it looks to engage many different stakeholders to support health and learning. So over the next series of slides, we're going to talk a little bit more about this approach. Prior to the whole school, whole community, whole child approach, we looked at this information through the coordinated school health model. What this model really didn't account for were all the stakeholders in the process, and it took a much more individual silo approach to the issue. And what I mean by that is it didn't necessarily look at how different elements work together to promote health and learning. The new model, the whole school, whole community, whole child, was launched in 2014 by an organization referred to as ASCD and the CDC, so the Centers for Disease Control and Prevention. This is sort of a pictorial representation of the approach. And you can see at the center of this approach is the student. And we have all of these different elements that sort of work their way out from the center core, the student. This model very much looks to engage stakeholders outside the school environment, as well as those inside the school environment, to promote and work towards health and learning, to promote the student and promote a healthy environment for the student. When we promote the health and well-being of students, staff, and classrooms, and even schools, we are developing an environment which is most conducive for effective teaching and learning. When we learn who our students are, enhancing connectedness between them and the school, we are not only increasing their sense, and by their I mean the student's sense of belonging and safety, we are also better understanding what makes our students tick, and we can understand what we need to adjust in teaching methodologies to suit this environment. When we reach out to families and the local community, we are not only expanding the safety net for our students, but we are also empowering key stakeholders in the responsibility and purpose of education. So really this is a much bigger concept where we're really trying to engage people and organizations at many different levels to promote the well-being, the health, and the learning of our students. So you can tell from what I've been saying that the child is really at the center of this approach. The last few slides, you could see that visually. So really, this new model redirects attention to the child. It emphasizes a school-wide approach rather than a one subject or one location approach to well-being, health, and learning. It very much acknowledges the position of learning, health, and the school as being a part of and a reflection of the larger community. And really, this is considered an approach, not a model or a program. This is a way to uh, engage community members or engage school members. It's not a model necessarily to follow. So there are several core messages, so simple core messages that pair with this idea of whole community, whole school, whole child. These are very broad messages that state the importance of healthy students and the link to academic achievement. So on this slide are the 4 core messages that can be consistently shared across all communication mediums. So whether you're having a conversation or preparing a PowerPoint, or maybe you're having a meeting, or you're sending out emails to parents or teachers, you're developing newsletters, all of these core messages can be simply incorporated into those forms of communication. So here are the 4 core messages. They're right here on the screen. Healthy students are better learners. So that's a core message that you can consistently reinforce in your communications. Schools can influence eating and physical activity behaviors. Just think about everything that we've been talking about in so far in our class, what we talked in our first class, or even in our second session online, and think about what you've talked about in all the other classes, right? How important is eating? How important is our cafeteria, or using our cafeteria as a classroom to supporting healthy students and healthy learners? Third core message is healthy, successful students help build strong communities. So the idea that what we're creating, the foundation that we're laying in the classroom or in the school, can help our students be healthy members of our community and strong members of our communities. And then finally, the fourth message is all students deserve the opportunity to be healthy and successful. And I think that really sums it all up. They deserve this. They deserve to have environments where they can learn and grow and be successful. Health and well-being for far too long have really been put in silos, both logistically and philosophically. And so what does that mean? It means that we've thought of health and well-being as a standalone, that no outside factors really influence it. And so what we're learning is that we really need to pull it out of that mentality, and that so many factors really affect health and well-being. Charles Bosch, in a meta-analysis, which is a sort of review paper that looks at lots of other research and then sort of pulls all that research together and analyzes it together to provide an overview. So in his meta-analysis of healthier students are better learners, he called for a renewed focus on health as the missing link in school reforms to close the achievement gap. In essence, if we want students to achieve and be better learners, then we need to provide better school environments for them to do that. Yet we know that learning and health are related. So despite this fact that, it's often put in a silo, we really know at the core that learning and health are related. Think about our breakfast program, right? And all of the research that's been done around that. When kids eat breakfast, they perform better. Their behavior in the classroom is better. So we know that these factors are interrelated. Health and education impacts individuals, society, and the economy. And so these elements must work together whenever possible. Schools are a perfect setting for this collaboration. Approximately 95% of all U.S. school and youth attend some form of school. Schools are one of the most efficient systems for reaching children and youth to provide health services and programs. More deeply integrating health services and programs into the day-to-day life of schools and students represents an untapped tool for developing the whole child and raising academic performance. In 2007, the ASCD, the leading global education organization with over 1,400,000 members spanning 130 countries, launched its Whole Child Initiative. This set in place the most effective means to ensure that each child is healthy, safe, engaged, supported, and challenged. Simultaneously, ASCD called for communities, educators, parents, businesses, and a whole range of stakeholders to really forge a new relationship with students to engage their whole and healthy development. So on this page also is a link to the WIS introductory video. I've placed this video in um, this week's Blackboard folder, so you can go there and actually watch the introductory video. So just a note, if you pre-printed the PowerPoint slides, I want to make sure you understand on the pre-printed slides, I have eliminated slides 13 to 15. So you will see that I've jumped ahead if you're following along with your slide set. The information on those slide sets were really just some reinforcement and such, and I didn't feel like as I reviewed this, they were critical to our conversation. So in your slide set, if you're following along, it's slide 16, or you're just listening to me. All right, so why school health? The major causes of health problems can be linked to behavior. Behavioral patterns begin in childhood and adolescence, so that's sort of the foundation of future behaviors. And if we want to make changes to these future behaviors, we need to start at a fairly young age. Health behaviors impact young people's capacity to learn on a short and long-term basis. And, just a slide or so before, I was talking about the breakfast program and how we know through research that kids who eat breakfast do better academically, so they perform better on exams. And behaviorally, we see better behavior patterns in the classroom. And finally, the last point on this page is really almost all American youth are reachable through schools. Again, as I said previously, 95% of kids go to school in some form or fashion. So some of these articles on the page just sort of reinforce some of that information or what we've learned about behavioral patterns being linked to health problems and impacts that happen in the school, how we can overcome some of those. And a lot of it is related to breakfast. So I think two of these articles are related to breakfast. So what data do we have for Massachusetts? So what data do we have to say, what are some trends with our youth population in Massachusetts in any type of behavior? So eating or physical activity, those types of things. So one source that collects data is the Youth Risk Behavior Surveillance System. So this is a scientific sampling of youth throughout Massachusetts. And actually, they do this across the nation as well. But we certainly do it here in Massachusetts. And it's anonymous and voluntary. So it is a survey of high school students. So we're looking at slightly older students, so that 9 to 12 age grade group. And some of the risk areas that they look at are things like tobacco use, alcohol and drug use, intentional and unintentional injuries, which can be an indication perhaps of suicidal intentions, things like that, sexual risk behaviors, and two that would be potentially relevant to us in a school environment, in a school nutrition environment, dietary behaviors, and also then physical activity. So this survey has been taking place for a number of years. It's generally done every 2 years. The data that I'm presenting here is from 2013. There may be some updated data out there, and I will look to update these slide sets as we go forward. So this slide and the next slide are very similar. So this looks at weight perceptions and weight control in Massachusetts high schools between 2003 and 2013. And it's a little bit small, and I know that the colors are a little hard to tell, but the purple represents an older time period, whereas the very dark bar at the bottom there refers to the most recent time period. So you can see when we look at obese and overweight, maybe we've made some progress in cutting down some of those problems that we might have. But let's look at some of the other indicators here. So if we look at the third section of bars down, here the question was, do you view yourself as overweight? And more people viewed themselves as overweight than may actually have been overweight. And then the middle, or the fourth bar, set of bars down, trying to lose weight. So many people are actually trying to lose weight. Whether they need to or not, I think that should be noted. This is similar data, just presented over a different time period, so 2003 through, I think, 2011. So similar data to what we saw on the slide before, but you can see that these trends seem to be similar, right? If we laid these two graphs over each other, they would be very similar in data. This particular chart looks at food consumption of high school students. And if we look at some of the items at the bottom, on the far left, we're looking at ate 5+ fruits and vegetables a day, drank 3 glasses of milk per day, ate breakfast every day, drank 1 glass of non-fat, 1 glass of non-diet soda per day. No such thing as non-fat soda. So, we can see that, some of the things are improving. So the darkest bar here represents the most recent. So maybe eating a few more fruits and vegetables than the 2 previous years, and looks like drinking a little bit less milk than the previous years, but eating more breakfast and drinking less soda. So we're seeing some behaviors change in positive directions. This slide talks about or represents physical activity of high school students. So we can see on the far left, we're looking at whether or not the participants indicated they did 3 hours of non-school related video gaming computer usage. Ooh, so we see that number going up, right? And then the second set of bars, played on a sports team this last year. So there's a leveling off of that. So perhaps a leveling off of participation in sports. The third set of bars is 3+ hours of TV during the average school day, and some of that has gone down. And then the last one is physical activity, 60 minutes at least 5 days a week. And so maybe a very, very slight uptick that we've seen in there. So again, some interesting trends that we'll want to watch. So the School Health Index is an assessment and planning tool that can help us look at school wellness related factors that impact nutrition and other school wellness related issues. This model is based on CDC's research guidelines for school health programs, and these guidelines help us identify the policies and practices that are most likely to be effective in improving youth health risk behaviors. So some of the behaviors that we saw in the preceding slides related to obesity or TV watching or physical activity. The School Health Index includes 8 models, and those models cover things such as school health and safety policies and environment, health education, physical education and other physical activity programs, nutrition services, and that's going to be of particular importance because in our assignment you need to do that module. It also covers health services, counseling, psychological and social services, health promotion for staff, and family and community involvement. So for your assignment, you have to do the module on nutrition services, and then you have to pick one additional model. So you are looking at 2 models overall that you need to review and assess. So a couple things to kind of keep in mind: that the School Health Index is a self-assessment and planning tool. It is not intended to be used as a research or an overall evaluation tool. And by that I mean to actually evaluate in some way, penalize or punish a program because of the outcome. Instead, we would use the outcomes from that self-assessment and planning tool to take action for the future. Like, how can we improve what's going on? So the School Health Index has 2 formats and 2 steps. So there are 2 separate versions, one for younger schools, so elementary schools, and then one for the older schools, so middle school and high school. Within each one of these versions, it is a 2-step process. The first step is that self-assessment, so answering a number of different questions. And then the second step of it is actually putting together an action plan. So for each of your 2 modules that you're going to do, you're going to go through those steps. You're going to first assess, answer a series of questions, and then on the second part of it is you're going to write some action plans or action steps that you might take to make improvements. Please note that this slide is out of sequence, and so I will eliminate this from future presentations. So, as part of the questions in the School Health Index assessment, there are some what we would call cross-cutting questions. So, questions that might be related to a number of different areas within school wellness. So, the top 5 health topic areas include things like physical activity, nutrition, tobacco use and prevention, uh, overall safety, and asthma. These would be considered cross-cutting uh, health topics, and you may see them in a number of different modules um, throughout the whole entire assessment. So within those 8 modules, you may see many of these cross-cutting um, uh, activities. I should also note that although it's really a great idea for schools to implement the entire school health index, sometimes that's just not possible. So it is, you are able to sort of piecemeal it. So to go into the sections that might be most pressing right now, or the sections that you really want to get a sense of where you stand with your self-assessment. And then you take those action steps within those identified areas. So you don't have to do, a school doesn't have to do all 8 of the uh, modules. You can select the ones that are most pressing. So the entire school health index can be completed in approximately 6 hours. So we're looking at modules 1 through 4. They take approximately an hour each, and then the modules 5 through 8, approximately 30 minutes each to do those. You, again, just to reinforce, you must complete Module 4, Nutrition, Environment, and Services, and then you can pick any other module from 1 through 8. I think one of the most difficult things that you're going to find in doing this assignment is finding that partner person, that person who can help you answer questions that you can't. And that really goes back to your communication skills and being able to reach out to those within your school environment who can help collaborate with you in answering these questions. So I know that sounds, overwhelming, and that you all work so hard in what you do. And then so the thought of having to reach out to other people to help answer these questions may seem a monumental task. I can tell you that the small investment of time that you make now can have big dividends for helping you to understand areas within your environment, so within school nutrition, that may need that you may need to make some steps. And so by doing this activity, it may help you understand some areas that may need some improvement or attention. Um, and it may also indicate areas that you are doing super well. So while we often talk about self-assessments in terms of, how can we improve, on the flip side of that, self-assessments can actually be an indication of what we are doing really well. So this can be used as information in both ways. But again, I know it can seem, a huge task to have to reach out to others to help answer some of these questions that you can't answer. But again, the investment that you make in this now can really help your programs going forward. So to access a paper copy of the School Health Index, the link is on this slide. The link is on the copy of the slides you have in Blackboard. And I've also provided a link in Blackboard directly to the School Health Index website. So about midway down the page, it's going to look just like you see it right here. And to download a print version, you're going to click whether you want the elementary school or whether you want the middle school. So I'm just going to give a fair warning that when you download the paper versions, the versions include information for each and every module. So you are downloading a document that could be 200 plus pages. Again, can seem overwhelming. Don't be overwhelmed. Um, my recommendation actually is to use the online version of the School Health Index. And you can see right above where it says download the print version, it talks about the online version, and you can click it there. One of the really nice things about the online version is that it allows you to click a button to respond, and then the online version actually tallies your information. So it's not pen and paper where you have to write down and tally columns and calculate percentages and then, color code to see where you might have areas for improvement. Once you enter your responses, the online system does all that tallying for you. So I'm really an advocate for the online system. But if you are the person who likes the real pen and paper, that's available to you as well. In the School Health Index, there are lots of resources and support information. So if you have questions about using the benefit, or what's the benefit of using the School Health Index, or how long will it take to complete, there are a series of facts, answers, and questions that are available on the website. So you can pull down some of that information there. And then again, this is more information about facts, answers, and questions. Like, should I use the online version or the print version? If you're not sure which to go, they may provide some supporting information there. All right, so let's talk a little bit more about some of the detail about what's involved in the self-assessment process. So what you see on the screen here is a sample of all the topic areas for Module 1 of the School Health Index. And this module focuses on school policies and environment, and it may be one of the most broad of the 8 modules because it addresses a wide range of topics. The questions in Module 1 address all 5 health topic areas, as well as questions that cut across all of these content issues. So some examples of the question topics include, well, they're just listed here. So let me just focus on 2 within this group that may be more related to what we do in the school cafeteria. So for example, fundraising supports healthy eating, and then adequate time to eat school meals. These are 2 issues that we have within a school food service. So they're most directly related to that. So once you answer all of the questions, you would then tally up your answers. So what you see here on the screen are the questions. So for example, in Module 1, there's a question, prohibits using food as a reward for punishment. And you have to answer that whether it's fully in place, partially in place, or under development. So the highlighted indicates, selecting that response. So for the first row, you can see that what was selected was under development. So that's 1 point. So you would go in the written copy, you would go through and you would just circle or highlight or do whatever you want your answer to each of the specific questions. At the bottom of the form, you would then tally it up. So this side represents some additional information about each of the questions. So it provides just a little bit more insight into what the questions might mean. So the question is, so we can see N1, which was the question that tracked to the previous slide. Does the school prohibit giving students food as a reward and withholding food as punishment? And so it gives some examples. So an example of using food as a reward is providing candy or fast food coupons to students because they have behaved well or met an academic or fundraising goal. So you can see it provides a little bit more detail. So if you're not sure what the question really means, there are resources within the forms and within the information to get a deeper understanding of what the question means. So this is an example of a completed scorecard. So you can see the circles around the different answers to those specific questions. And then you would calculate the each of the columns down. And so you can see here in the first column, there's 15 points. The second is 14 points. The next is 6 points. And you get no points for the very last column, which is not in place. So then you add each of the points for each of the columns and divide by the total points possible for the module. So we would divide 35 by the total points that are available for this module, which is 87. And I think it's a little bit blurry on the slide, but to the left of where it says 40%, it will tell you the number of points that are available for this module. And so in the sort of the cryptic writing there, it's hard to see it. It says 87 points. So for this scorecard, the overall percentage is 40%. So the paper and the online version are a little bit different. This, again, is an example, and what we've been seeing so far is an example of the paper version. So this is an example of the first two completed planning questions for this module. So in the online version, you'll look at a menu bar and then you'll click a plan for improvement and type some data in. So this looks a little bit different than what you'll see online. And I have posted some additional slides in the presentation section, and also I'm going to talk you through the online version of this as well. So in this particular example that we see of an action plan, the group has decided to take some actions, and the school could then use this as a process of identifying weaknesses and areas that they need to concentrate on. So for example, again, it's a little bit blurry here in the audio version, but you can maybe see it in just the slide version a little bit clearer. So some of the weaknesses were forming a school health committee or conducting staff development on active supervision techniques or finding alternatives for fundraising, et cetera, et cetera. So they've identified some of what their weaknesses are, but it's also important to identify what some of your strengths are, because those are the things that you are going to rely on maybe to help overcome some of your weaknesses. So this improvement plan, at least the written version of it, allows you to sort of write down strengths and weaknesses. So within the action plan or the improvement plan, it allows you also sort of to rank how important it is cost or time or commitment or feasibility where do they rank? Are they more important, less important? How expensive will this be? Not expensive? And by doing that, it can give you a sense of where you may start first. Maybe within your school organization or your school environment, sorry, cost is, critical. There's no money to invest in this. So you may look to start and work with action items that are inexpensive or don't cost anything. Or maybe you have to start and really work on the ones that are you know are easier to do in terms of time, because time is a critical cost factor as well. So you sort of look to rank the importance or cost or time or whatever it might be for each of your action items. All right, so what I've been talking about and what I've been showing in the previous few slides are really related to the written version of the School Health Index. But because we have this online version, I really want to promote it and say that in some ways it's actually easier to fill out the online version. So what I thought I would do is walk you through the process of doing this. Now, just a note, these slides are not in the original PowerPoint. I have posted these slides separately, and I posted them under the header of School Health Index online version. So you will see that in the area where you can download the presentation slides. Okay, so type into your browser School Health Index, and you are going to go to the main homepage. And this is what the top portion, like the top third of the web page looks like. You're going to see this little box to the side that says Start Here, and you want to click that. Once you click that, it's going to take you to a page that looks like this. So again, this is probably the top half of the page, and you are going to want to set up an account. And setting up a new account in the School Health Index is called requesting a new team. So you are going to click, I've circled it in green here on the screen, you're going to click the button that says register a new team. That's going to take you into a page that you are going to fill out based on your team. So you can give your team name anything you want. It can be your school name, it could be a made-up name. I think when I did this, I made a made-up name, and it was something like Sample Team 123, just so that I could go through the process. So you're going to fill out the information and click the button on the bottom to create your team. What this is going to do is you're eventually, after filling this information out, going to get an email to your email account. So make sure you remember which account it's going to. And it's sort of a verification. They're going to send you a special number that you're going to need. So let me click the next page to show you where you're going to put that number. So once you register your team, you want to go back to the Getting Started page. So again, this is the page where originally you were looking at the Register a New Team. And now, since you have your account number, you're going to access your team's School Health Index assessment. So the reference number that was sent to you in the email is the number that you are going to enter here in this link. So I've circled the box. So you're going to click that and you're going to click Go. So congratulations, you've set up your team and you are ready to go with your health assessment. So once you enter your team's assessment, this is what the page is going to look like. So your school's SHI sample team. And so where you want to start, I've drawn the green arrow to step 1, the modules or questions. So these are the 8 modules that we had talked about previously. So to start the process, click that little hyperlink, that blue, the words next to step 1, it's in blue, modules questions. That's going to take you to a page that looks like this. So you can see it lists all the different modules. So there's more modules here, but all the different modules. And then you are going to look at which module you want. So remember, you have to do the nutrition module. And I'm looking for it, and why don't I see it? Here it is. It's module 4, sorry. So the nutrition, empowerment, and services, you have to do that. But then you can do any other. And so just in keeping with what we talked about a few slides before, and I was talking about module 1, I thought I would go through module 1 just to show you some of this. So we're going to go into module 1 in order to do that. You could do a number of different things. You could click the discussion questions. So those are the questions that are going to be asked in Module 1 with some of those prompts that we had seen on a slide previously. Or you can just go right into the scorecard and planning questions, which is what I'm going to do. So the green arrow is pointing to that, so we're going to click it. And then our questions come up. So you can see, just like we saw in the written version, there's fully in place, partially in place, under development, not in place, or it doesn't apply. There are some questions that just simply won't apply to you. And so you can certainly respond to that. So to start, all of these questions are hyperlinked. So I recommend starting at the top, so question number 1 or criteria number 1, which is what I did, so that we'll see this in the next slide. So breakfast and lunch programs is what I clicked. And it brings me to the module's questions. So the first question for this section is, does your school offer school meals, breakfast and lunch programs that are fully accessible to all students? And so you would answer this, yes. Our school offers breakfast and lunch programs, but they are not fully accessible. Or perhaps our school offers only lunch programs, but there are plans to add a breakfast program, etc., etc. So you answer the question there by clicking one of the radio buttons. You just click it. So just like an online exam, but it's not a test. So you're going to click one of the buttons and then continue, and it will take you to the next question. So once you've finished out all of the questions in all of the modules, you will get a score on an overall scorecard, which is what this looks like. So you can see for module 1, I went through it on my own, and I just clicked buttons randomly. And the range that I came in was sort of middle of the road, about 61 to 80%. So which, is good, but we're really striving for the green section here. We want to be in a higher range. I mean, that's our goal, right? It's not going to happen for every module, but that's our goal. We want to try to be in those ranges. So the really nice thing I think about the online program is it does all the tallying for you. You don't have to do it by hand. You let the system do it for you. So far we've talked about the module questions. We saw those. We talked about the overall scorecard, And then the last tab I want to talk about is the plan for improvement. So the plan for improvement tracks back to what we were talking about in the in-person, the paper version. So you would click this button and you would have the ability to write in some information about your strengths and weaknesses, or plans of actions, what you're going to do. And once again, the system keeps track of that. So you could put that information in, do one module, leave the system, go away, come back, all of your information is saved there, so you can always refer back to it. So I really am I'm an advocate of using the online version on that. All right, so that is sort of a quick walkthrough of the online version. So again, remember, you need to do 2 modules. One of them has to be the nutrition related module, module number 4, and then you can pick any other module that you want to do. I really recommend that you pick one of the ones that has some nutrition in it, because you want this to be as applicable as possible. You want this activity to be something that you can take back to school and implement, maybe some of the action plan items that you have. So it's not that you're just doing this, but you're doing this for a reason. You're doing this that you may actually be able to use this within your schools. So the next 2 slides really are just simply to show you some resources that are out there to help you put into action your action plans. So one resource is the Alliance for a Healthier Generation. And so this is a website, so the web address is up on the top there under the title. So you can go there and you can see here, I'm in the tab that says resources, so you can see where it's orange. And you can see all the resources on the left-hand side and topics that they may cover. So if you're struggling to figure out how to put your action plan into action, this may be a good resource to help you with that. So this is another resource that can help you with the implementation of your action plan. So the Health and Academic Achievement Report, this was produced by the CDC. The link is available there on the PowerPoints. So again, if you're needing more resources to figure out how to implement some of your action points, this is a great resource. So that concludes our first slide set. I'm going to sign off and see you in the next presentation.